name is Father Joe Buenzi. I am the Salesian Director of Formation in Bellflower, California. Ever since 1988, the Salesians in California have been working together with the Don Bosco alumni from Vietnam. And in the last few months, in April of 1990, one of the alumni, Nguyen Van Ting, was able to make a trip back to Vietnam and spend some time with the various Salesians there at work in Vietnam. What we're about to show you is Don Bosco's work alive today in Vietnam, and so I would like to present to you Don Bosco and the Salesians there. For more than 100 years, Vietnam was under the domination of the French. In the 1930s, Salesians from China under Father Correct came to investigate the possibility of opening mission houses. In 1952, Salesian Father Myason accepted an orphanage in Hanoi called St. Teresa's Family. The orphanage flourished, but within 2 years, the French were defeated by the communists, and many of the people from North Vietnam began to flee to the south. So too did the Salesians, with the help of Bishop Seitz. In 1954, they opened the technical school at Govap, and later the seminary at Tu Duc. The Salesian work in the south continued to flourish, so much so that we opened aspirantates and novitiates in the early 60s. In 1972, Vietnam became a province of its own right, with over 100 native Salesians. Missionaries from Asia and from Europe helped found the formation houses that were so vital to the new province, and in spite of the war, the work flourished. But all this was quickly to come to an end in 1975.
This is the plane load of boat people. These are the people fled Vietnam in the past, are now illegally re-entering Vietnam once again. They're entering with visas bought on the black market in Australia, Thailand, and Canada. Most of these people claim that they just want to ignore the political issue and looking forward of being reunited with the families and relatives. Many express emotional feelings when seeing old members of families and relatives. Others just leave the airport quietly and afraid to give any comment. The North Vietnamese claim that they have given Saigon a new look after 15 years of restore. This is Saigon today, crowded, dirty, poor. Most of these people lived here happily do so because they're unaware of the world outside their nation. Communists are now losing their grip on this nation, but government officials still refuse to admit that policies in the past may not have worked. This is a symbol of defiance. These people represented the battle that the Vietnamese government lost. The communists came to power in 1975. The church was outlawed. Government troops barred the door of the cathedrals. Many priests were jailed, but the Saigon Central Cathedral was crowded. Only the last few years, people are being allowed to return to the church service, but not long enough for them to feel comfortable when government officials walk in. Many were fear of the return of the decade when this cathedral was closed out. Many of the priests were forced into communist re-education camps. Though the chaplain are prevented from conducting services, the church has struggled to make a comeback in Vietnam, despite constant harassment from the government.
Ting was able to visit with a number of his own classmates, friends that he had spent his school years with in Tu Duc. The group decides to make a trip to visit their former teachers and Salesian works in other parts of the country. The group prepares to go on this journey, and Salesian Joseph Ming sends greetings to his friends, alumni who are in the United States. The first stop is Baton. Here the group visits a parish. 7 Salesians and several pre-novices are associated with this church. The new church was built in 1982. Baton is where the provincial, Father John T., makes his headquarters. Father T. has been provincial since the fall of Saigon, so for the last 15 years he has been the leader of the Salesians in this country. Salesians here, besides parish ministry, teach other subjects, especially English, and they've been able to organize a small school. The Salesians also must support themselves with other industries, raising fish, tropical fish for pet stores, as well as fish for eating. They've built several hatcheries. They also rent out some of their space to local citizens who use the land to dry out their rice. The group decides to move on. They head south to Cobon. Cobon is about 30 kilometers southwest of Saigon. It was designated a new economy zone by the Hanoi government in 1975. People from urban centers were moved to this wilderness area. Instead of the promised agricultural plenty, the people of Cobon met hardship and hunger. Father Fabiano Hao comes to greet us. During the communist takeover, Father Hao was director of Tuduk. In 1978, he was captured and imprisoned for 5 years. He came to Cobon in 1983 illegally to join a fledgling Salesian community here. Today, he is director of an underground community of 9 Salesians and 12 novices. Father Hao directs the different phases of formation. Father Hao wanted to greet the former missionaries, founders of the Salesian work in Vietnam. We have been here, he said, for 10 years now. We are grateful to all our Salesian brothers who have been supporting us with their prayers and financial help. We feel called to devote ourselves to our ministry here in spite of the difficulties. We are building on the foundations laid by the pioneer Salesians. It is thanks to their prayer and support, their sacrifices and love, that we have the courage to go on.
Tướng này giống
The alumni join with the Salesians for a festive meal. It is Palm Sunday. Meal times are always time for joy in the Salesian houses, and also a time for recognition for the Salesians who have been doing Don Bosco's work here. Deacon Hung speaks for the community. First of all, to congratulate Father Vigano on being re-elected. Deacon Hung also wants to take the opportunity to greet all the Salesians outside Vietnam and to say Happy Easter. We want to greet all the Salesians around the world. And I also want to thank the missionaries for all the work they have done here in Vietnam. I hope that you will be able to visit us, to visit the Salesians in Vietnam someday. the alumni group gathers once again with Father Hao to celebrate and to share. It is Palm Sunday, and they're celebrating in Salesian style. This is a favorite stopping point for many of the alumni who come on many occasions. The day ends with a prayer. Brother Chuan gives the good night talk, the Buonanotte, where he shares a Don Bosco story and encourages his former pupils to live Don Bosco's joy, his family spirit. And now we're on the road again to Hóc Môn. Father Hao accompanies us on our journey. Hóc Môn is a working community, a parish of about 300 families. This is one of the poorest parishes in the district. Of the 7 Salesians working here, there are no priests. This is because the government does not allow ordinations. Brothers and deacons and clerics work together in the parish and also support themselves with a variety of jobs, mainly the building and repairing of bicycles and motorbikes. They have a garden, but no animals. Deacon Ho greets the Salesians and the superiors with the same motif of gratitude for all that they have done in the past to lay the foundations in Vietnam. The repair work of bicycles and the building of new bicycles is very important to support this community. And the group arrived as the bell was ringing for the evening prayer. The little farm has no animals except for this little pet, which amuses the Salesians and, in this case, the Salesian alumni. It's a test of strength. Ting and the other alumni make acquaintances. The brothers in the community, Brother Hung and the other brothers, begin to explain their work to us and also their ministry. They have a very close community and they are very close to the people who are part of the parish. Brother Ta wants to express his gratitude to, again, the missionaries, in a special way, Father Maisin, Father Massimino, Father Quistapache, and all those who have laid the foundations in Vietnam. All the Salesians in Vietnam have great memories and great gratitude for those who have laid the foundations. Brother Ming, on his motorbike, prepares to make the rounds of the parish. He has only been here 2 months, and already his work in his ministry is very full. The next stop is Bến Cát. This is a suburb of Saigon. Here the Salesians have the parish of the Immaculate Conception. The pastor and director is Father Marco Huang. In this community there are 6 Salesians, but only one is a priest. Before lunch each day they meet for prayer, and then they gather for their noontime meal. After the meal, there's a few moments for siesta before taking on the harder work of the afternoon. This center in Bến Cát was founded in the early 1970s by Father Francis de Molinari, a Belgian Salesian. The founding pastor had to leave the country in 1975. Father Francis is still remembered 15 years later. Parishioners and Salesians alike recall his memory in much gratitude. The Sisters of the Holy Cross staff the parish, they cook the meals, they teach the catechism, and they also remember Father Francis and long for the day that he can return to visit them. Afternoons are times for ministry and times for study. Salesians on their bicycles go to visit their parishioners, or in this case, go off to school. They study music, and they also study philosophy and theology, but very quietly. There is a second house at Bến Cát, the farm. It is through this farm that the Salesians in both houses can be sustained. The buildings are very old. They've been mainly used for storage over these years. However, there are plans now to remodel and to build some more bedrooms to be able to host more visitors. This farm is mainly a vegetable farm, and it's through the farming of the Salesians and a number of parishioners that they are able to sustain their work. What we're looking at now is the dining room and the place where they hope to build the new residence. In the small farmhouse, there's also a small chapel. The fields are quite fruitful, although very small, and with the help of all the Salesians and of a number of parishioners, they're able to sustain themselves and to bring some crops to market. Their principal crops are parsley and lettuce, squash. Living conditions are quite poor, and the work is very hard. In spite of this, the Salesians pride themselves on a strong community, on a joyful spirit. They know Father Philip Rinaldi was beatified, and they also know through the radio that Father Egidio Vigano was re-elected Rector Major. The Salesians gathered and tried to convey their congratulations to Father Vigano.
Siamo molto felici di ascoltare notizie da Radio Veritas che è nominato, rieletto di nuovo Retto Maggiore. Preghiamo molto per lei e auguriamo continua una vita di sacrificio e una vita felice. Lei può vedere, siamo confratelli vietnamiti, un gruppo, siamo poveri e viviamo in una situazione difficile, ma siamo sempre contenti e sempre felici e vogliamo vivere lo spirito di Don Bosco, lo spirito salesiano. Auguri e salutiamo tutti i superiori lassù.
The three oldest brothers in the province were also gathered here. Brother Ta, Brother T, and Brother Chuan. Brother T always remembers the advice that Father Meissen gave him before he was expelled. Trust in Mary, and she will always protect you. May God always be your blessing. Brother Chuan recalls the advice to be faithful to Don Bosco always, and to trust in Mary, help of Christians, and we would see what miracles really are. We need to work, and our reward will be heaven. Swan Hip is the next stop on our journey. Here the Salesians have the parish of St. Mary's. 10 years ago, there were only 30 Catholic people. Now there are over 280 Catholics. After being expelled from Tuduk in 1978, the Salesians came here in 1979. Father Day is the director and the pastor. And the greatest apostolic work here, besides the parish, is the youth center and a small little school. which has about 16 boys in residence. Most of these boys come from difficult or broken families, and whereas they may live here at the parish, their teachers and assistants, the Salesians who teach them, are here during the day and must go to different residences at night, so as not to make the center too obvious. Their schooling is mainly general education, but is also a secret school. Brother Tuok wants to greet his friends in the United States.
Và một số anh em cùng lớp thì bây giờ tôi không biết được nó ở chỗ nào. Nếu giả dụ ở phía bên Mỹ mà anh còn biết được một số bạn thì nhắn tin để cho cùng biết để xăm lại.
When the Salesians first came to this house 10 years ago, all 8 of them fit into this small room. They were crowded together. It was through the help of Father Massimino and the Hong Kong province that they received the funds to be able to expand. Yet the quarters are still very small. Originally, this house was part of the orphanage that belonged to the Sisters, the Lover of the Holy Cross. The Sisters vacated this house for the Salesians. They live across the street now, where they help in a mental hospital. Up until 1989, the Salesians had to support themselves by growing bean sprouts and raising pigs. They would work 10 hours a day to raise bean sprouts for market. But in the last couple of years, they have been able to support themselves through other ways. This piano was a gift from the American GIs in 1970. It is still in good condition and brings music and joy to the house and to the parish. Tuduk. The Salesians have lost their house in Tuduk, but instead the Salesian sisters are still here.
The Salesian sisters at Damha have been trying their best to maintain and carry on their daily activities since the fall of Saigon. Many of the sisters have spread it to different places. Some have gone to the new economy zone. Tin was able to meet with Mother Superior of Tamha and heard many tragedies. But as you can see, the spirit of Saint Maria Mazzarello is still alive. They have worked well under all circumstances to provide great cares and needs for the children. Some of the buildings were torn apart because government officials were planning to take over the vacant buildings and turn it into apartments for their officers' families. After 15 years years, no money was put into these buildings for maintenance. As a result, this is the condition of the house today. The high school building of the Salesian Sisters are now became public school and controlled by the government.
The group moves to Ba Dong. Here the Salesians have a parish. The pastor is Deacon Man. He has been pastor for the last few years since the priest has died. He is the only Salesian here. He has many projects and many hopes for the young people of his parish.
Reverend Father Andre Maisen, my Master of Novices, Reverend Father Massimino, Reverend Father Attilio Sra, Rode de Marchi, Father Lager, and all my superiors there in the past, who are now living many places in the world. First of all, the greeting from my heart, very deep down from my heart. Secondly, my thanksgiving, infinite and deep thanksgiving also from my heart for whatever you have done for me personally, for us Salesians here, and for our dear country, Vietnam. First of all, I miss you always as we do here. We have many occasions to talk about you and about the past, our beautiful past. Here we have heart together. And we pray always, so in the past and still continue to pray for you, so that God will give you reward in this worldly life and also the life to come. Dear fathers, I don't know what to speak and how to speak to express my gratitude towards you. And I consider this occasion that Mr. Tate comes here to Vietnam to visit us and gives us this occasion to have the possibility to talk with you as a grace from God. Although in the past we have written many letters to you and also received many letters and graces from you too, but I just consider this is a very good occasion to express all my feelings and also my gratitude towards you. And we are longing for the day, especially to Father Massimino, in the case of the Father Andre Maisen, my dear Father Master of Novices. Maybe we don't have any hope that you can come to visit us here in Vietnam, but we hope very much in the arrival of Father Massimino, and we are longing earnestly for the arrival of Father Attilio Stra and many other superiors. We hope in the future, maybe very near future, you can come here and visit us. So that will be a happiness for us all. So at the end, since we cannot have a long time to talk with you since the videotape is limited, so I promise, like all the Salesian conference here in Vietnam, to pray for you. We always look at you, orientate our heart towards you with all the feeling and good sentiments, good feelings, and we promise to pray much for you, especially for you to have good health and also many graces, energy needed for you to live and also to fulfill the mission already assigned to you by God. So once more, my thanks, my deep greetings, wholehearted greetings. So goodbye, dear fathers.
Brother Mon has hopes that this small house at the parish can be turned into a small trade school, offering tailoring, electronics, and computers. Phu Sun, a small town out in the country located approximately 48 kilometers from Saigon. Father Huang is the pastor of this parish, and yet, even though he has been ordained 15 years, he is forbidden by the government to offer Mass publicly. There are 3 Salesians in the community. Father Huang wants to greet the Salesian superiors, the missionaries, the founders of the province. He's very happy to know of the alumni and of their work and of their union here in the United States, and hopes that some of them will come back to visit him and the other Salesians. He wishes long life to Father Myson, Father Straw, Father Lager, and Father Massimino, and all those who had served in Vietnam. He says that every time we hear of you or see you on videotape, we remember the happiness of our past. We look forward to your visit. Please pray for us in Vietnam, that we may always keep faithful to Don Bosco's path.
Mỗi lần trông thấy các cha ở trên video, chúng con rất nhớ những ngày qua đã sống với các cha, và anh em chúng con rất mong được gặp các cha để nói chuyện, để tâm sự, và xin Chúa chúc lành cho các cha, để công việc các cha ở mọi nơi luôn luôn được tốt đẹp. Và xin cha cũng nhớ cầu nguyện cho anh em chúng con ở Việt Nam luôn luôn thi hành đúng sứ mệnh của Don Bosco. Xin chân thành kính chào tất cả các bề trên anh em.
Ten miles to the northeast is the community of Tan Can. This is 10 miles through the desert in a new economy zone. This community was opened in 1975. They began with a small bamboo hut. 15 years later, they still live out of the bamboo and they still have no water. The house is dedicated to St. Dominic Savio and is another priestless parish. 1 deacon and 4 clerics waiting for ordination hold this parish together. They've also opened a boarding school in the last 2 years, where there was once a government school that was in jeopardy of being closed for lack of students. The Salesians appealed to the government and were able to take over a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Now they have 18 boarders, and the hope is in the near future to open up to a high school. 2/3 of the people of this parish are not Catholic, and yes, they turn to this very active parish and school as a center of their life and of their community. Besides running the school, there is of course the farm for some sustenance. In the past, the coffee crop has been very fruitful, although this 1990 has been a very dry year. The drought predicts a small harvest. They are not able to have Mass in the church regularly since they do not have a priest, and yet the parish gathers for prayers and devotions. Living conditions here are very harsh, as you can see by the surroundings. The Salesians here have been struggling with ill health. Brother Joseph Van died in 1985 at the age of 35 of a disease that could have been cured in other places. The Salesians are gathered here in the parish cemetery. They remember Brother Van. The dormitory for the boys at the boarding school is quite ample, but also serves as a warehouse and storage. Here last year's coffee crop are stored and readied. They make use of everything that they can in building and in using their ingenuity. The church bell is a former bombshell left over from the war days. This bell calls people to church, opens the oratory, starts the classes. At the school, the classes go on in the morning, and hope is that the school can be extended and expanded. In the afternoon, this very active center turns into an oratory, children's daycare, and youth center. This truck brings water from the river for the Salesians and for the people of the community. Life here is very primitive, and yet this is one of the most active of all the Salesian places we have seen so far. The children are like kids all over. They have fun, they enjoy themselves, they feel at home with Don Bosco and his Salesians. A parish entrusted to the patronage of St. John Bosco in Hien Duc is the next stop in our journey. Hien Duc is a small village in Long Tang, about 50 kilometers northeast of Saigon. In the parish there are 5 Salesians. None of them are priests. They support themselves by raising birds and by planting peppers. They also have a school, which is an elementary school, and this parish school has many children that are cared for by the Salesians. Up until this last year, the Salesians have had to support themselves by working in the fields. They would walk 10 kilometers each day to work in the farm fields and then return to the parish. In the last year, the stringent lifestyle has been relaxed and conditions are becoming better. The hope is that the parish, as it continues to flourish, will allow the Salesians to increase their work in education and for the people of this area. We just saw the pepper as it is entwined and grows, and here are the many different types of birds that are grown, mainly for market. The Salesians live in a very modest lifestyle here, and this too is a daughter community of Tu Duc. The Salesians arrived here after they were expelled from Tu Duc in 1975.
Một ý viên nhà bên này là anh em Salesian vẫn luôn luôn tâm niệm bảo tồn lấy cái gia sản của đất này đã trao phó cho anh em. Không biết có làm sinh hoạt cái trái được không, nhưng xin cố gắng gìn giữ gia sản đấy không. Anh em mình Đức chúng tôi hoạt động ở cái vùng địa sản này thì có một cảm nhận rất lớn, đó là cái tinh thần Salesian của chúng ta đi tới đâu thì
The 10th stop on our journey is the town of Buc Loc. Here, the Salesians have recently acquired a parish. Father Joseph Quang and 2 other Salesians are gathered here. With the parish, there is a youth center. Although Father Quang was ordained in 1975, he was an underground priest until the pastor of Buc Loc died, and the government of Hanoi officially recognized him as a priest in 1989. Father
rất
Quang
thân mến của con.
and the other Salesians
Hôm nay con sung sướng gặp lại
are happy
được,
to have the
học trò
opportunity
cũ
to
ngày xưa
speak
về đây
to
và
the
đến thăm con như
Salesian
vậy thì con
superiors.
cảm động lắm. Và hôm
I
nay
am happy, he said, to see
nhân dịp
Ting, my former
để có những
pupil.
hình ảnh sống
He's
động
come to
cụ
visit
thể
me,
các công
and this
cuộc
makes me
Salesian
very
tại
happy.
Việt Nam. Còn trước hết,
Ting has been videotaping the
gửi
life
lời
and the work
chào
of the Salesians
trên
in
cả
Vietnam.
cha Egidio
The first
Vigano
thing I
quý
want
mến
to say
và tất cả
is
các
hello
vị
to
bề trên
Father
ở
Egidio
bên đó.
Vigano, the
Con
Rector
là
Major,
Joseph
and to all the
Nguyễn Văn
superiors
Quang,
in Rome.
một linh mục Salesian Don Bosco đang phục vụ
My
tại
name
giáo xứ
is
Phước Lộc.
Father Joseph Quang.
Và chúng con
I am a
dù
Salesian
những thành
working
phần bé
here
nhỏ,
in Phước Lộc
nhưng đối
in
với bề trên,
Vietnam.
chúng con xin cam kết là đại
We
diện Don
guarantee
Bosco
that
trên
we
Việt
will
Nam
be
này,
faithful
cái
to
lòng
the
trung
spirit
thành của
of
chúng
St.
con
John Bosco.
trong sứ mạng Don Bosco. Và
And I and my
kế tiếp
community
thì
send
con
our
trước hết
greetings
xin gửi lời
to
chào
Father Andrew
thăm
Meissen,
Maestro Meissen yêu quý
my
của
dearest novice
con.
director.
Con rất nhớ và
Father
trong những
Meissen,
khát vọng con ngày nào
I
đó
miss you
được
very
gặp lại
much,
Maestro.
and I
Con biết
wish
tình
that
trạng
one
của
day
Maestro
I'll be able to
yếu,
see you
già
again.
rồi, nhưng mà
Although
chắc
your
Maestro
health
không
is not
quên
really great,
Quang
I know
của
that you still
Maestro,
remember me
cũng như là Mama
and my good
của
mother.
các em. Mỗi lần Maestro viết cho con
So
đều nhắc tới.
please,
Con xin
continue
chào
to pray
Maestro
for me.
và con cầu Chúa để Maestro
I
khỏe
miss you very
và
much.
nhớ cầu nguyện cho con nhá. Con nhớ lắm đó.
Then I
Con
want
cũng
to
nhớ
remember
cả cha
Father Mario Acquistapace.
là một bề trên thương con đặc
I
biệt.
remember
Trong
in a
thời
special
gian,
way that
con
August
ở
of
lại Việt Nam,
1974
con không bao giờ
when I
quên
had to
được
say
cái
goodbye
giây
to
phút
Father Mario
của
in Hong
August
Kong,
1974, khi đó con phải
that
từ
I'd never
giã
be
cha
able to see you
Mario
again
tại Hồng Kông,
was
để
my
rồi không bao
greatest
giờ con
sorrow.
gặp lại cha nữa. Con nhớ lắm và con
I do
chào
know
cha.
that
Và
at this
con
very
chắc là
moment
cha
you are
đang là
dedicating
xả thân
yourself
những
to
giây
the
phút cuối
lepers
cùng của cuộc
in
đời
Cold
vì
One,
lý tưởng Don
Macau.
Bosco cho những người cùi tại
I
Hội
hope
An.
that
Nếu
all the
con không lầm,
Salesians here
con
will
rất
be
là
able to
phục
follow
và
in your
con mong rằng
footsteps,
đời
Father
sống của
Mario.
mỗi Salesian chúng con có thể theo chân được cha yêu quý, cha Mario. Con cũng xin gửi lời chào cha
Father
Massimino là bề
Massimino,
trên của anh em Việt Nam
greetings
chúng con,
also to you.
đã tận tụy cả
You
cuộc
were
đời
superior
của
of
mình
all the
ở
Salesians
tại
in
đất Việt Nam
Vietnam.
này. Mặc dù cha không
Although
còn được ở lại
physically
đây
you are
nữa,
not with
nhưng
us,
mà tâm hồn của
we
cha
still remember
luôn
you.
ở với chúng con. Chúng con
We
cảm
see you
động qua những
vividly
lá thư,
in
qua
old
những hình ảnh
pictures,
và qua
in
sự
the
giúp
letters
đỡ
that we
của
received
cha
from you,
đến với chúng con.
in all
Con
the
chào
physical and
cha
financial support that you
Massimino
have given to
và
us
đồng
over
thời
the
con cũng
years.
chào cả cha Lực.
And we want to tell you how grateful we
Tiếp
are.
xúc với cha, nhưng mà tinh thần và
And
cuộc
there's
sống,
Father
sự hăng
Straw.
say và tinh thần
Even
trẻ của
though
cha
I
là
didn't
những hình
have
ảnh
the
để
chance
chúng
to
con
know
không
you
bao giờ quên được.
personally,
Chào cha Lager.
who does not know
Con còn
of your
nhớ
great
những lần
enthusiasm?
cha dạy con hoặc những trận basket mà cha đè con
And
xuống,
Father
con
Lager,
không quên đâu. Con chào cha.
I think of you for all your teaching and for all the games you led. And I remember you in a special way for the times you pinned me to the ground while we were playing basketball.
Chào tất cả các bề trên bên đó.
Brother DeMarchi, I imagine that you have aged and by now there is no hair left on your head. My greetings to you, and my greetings to all the superiors. But I remember two more, Father Francis Tsang and Father Ha. You are all probably more handsome now.
Trở lại Việt Nam với chúng con. Và con xin chào cả cha Ngọc, cha Melina, cha
We have
Vũ Lợi,
plans
cha Minh
for our work here.
và các bề trên của con ngày
The work
xưa.
is at its
Giờ đây
beginning,
thì thời gian
and yet it
con
promises
sắp sửa
well.
làm lễ rồi, con không có
Though we've been
nói
here
thêm được nữa.
only a short
Và
time,
đối với anh em
we see
Salesian,
Don Bosco is
anh
leading
em
us
tu học viên Salesian
for the youth of our
ở
area.
tại,
We
hải
have
ngoại,
more than
đặc biệt ở bên
3,000
Mỹ.
parishioners here.
Tôi xin gửi lời chào
But
tất
besides
cả
the
anh em
church,
như,
we've
cha
started
Quảng,
a way of
rồi
gathering
cha
the
Lương
young,
Tương Lai, cha
and we
Việt.
hope to start an
Chào tất cả
oratory
anh em
after
và
Don
chúc cho
Bosco's
phong
own
trào
heart.
của anh em Salesian tại hải ngoại,
Our
như
church
là những
is
anh
very
em của
small.
Don Bosco tại hải ngoại,
We would like
tăng thêm
to
nhiệt tình,
enlarge it or
và như là
perhaps
hướng
build a
về
new
Don
one.
Bosco tại Việt Nam.
And the
Giúp
new
anh em
church that
chúng
we
tôi-
have, we
chúng tôi
will
cần lắm.
dedicate
Vật
to marry
chất
help of
và nhất
Christians.
là tinh thần chúng tôi rất cần để cho đời sống Don Bosco tại Việt Nam được phát triển. Và sau đây thì con xin phép bề trên con xin giới thiệu cái khu đất của con. Thì con đang coi giáo xứ hơn 3.000 giáo dân và các việc mục vụ của giáo xứ chúng con là theo tinh thần Don Bosco hoàn toàn. Chúng con có các sinh hoạt về thiếu nhi và giới trẻ áp dụng đúng system preventive của Don Bosco và các giờ sinh hoạt giáo lý có theo đúng tiêu chuẩn
và các em cũng như là toàn thể các giới trong giáo xứ này có một sự phát triển tốt đẹp. Đó là vì sự hiện diện của anh em Don Bosco chúng con và hai thầy nữa, thầy Phương và thầy Phùng. Chắc là các bề trên không được biết lắm, nhưng mà anh em chúng con luôn luôn sát cánh với nhau để làm việc tông đồ, hoàn tất sứ mạng Don Bosco tại giáo xứ này. Còn như con giới thiệu cái khu đất ấy, chúng con sắp sửa làm nhà thờ trên khu đất này nếu được phép của chính quyền. Và con xin thưa với các bề trên của con là cái nhà thờ này sẽ được làm in honor of our Blessed Lady Mary Help of Christians. Đó là Don Bosco đi đâu thì phải có Đức Mẹ phù hộ ở đấy. Chính vì vậy mà để ghi ơn Đức Mẹ phù hộ đã dành cho anh em Don Bosco chúng con làm việc tại giáo xứ này, thì chúng con sẽ chuẩn bị ngôi nhà thờ mới. Thì nhà thờ cũ quá cũ rồi, không thể làm việc được nữa. Và ngôi nhà thờ mới này chúng con sẽ dành nỗ lực để làm dâng hiến Đức Mẹ phù hộ các giáo hữu, là bà mẹ của chúng ta, mẹ của những người Salesian. Và chúng con cũng mong muốn là sau này chính giáo phận Xuân Lộc này có sự hiện diện cụ thể của anh em Don Bosco chúng con chính qua ngôi đền thờ Đức Mẹ phù hộ. Nhưng mà chúng con còn thiếu kém lắm.
"20 kilometers further to the east is Tan. Here, the Salesians have had a parish since the early 1970s, and the parish is dedicated to the Sacred Heart. There are 3 Salesians at this parish, Father Bao, and then 1 deacon and 1 brother. There's a very active youth group. The children and teens work together and prepare for the liturgy of Holy Week. They have a great youth center, a wonderful choir, very many athletic activities. The parishioners and Salesians are trying to repair the center and the church. They're putting together a number of building materials in hopes of renovating the church soon. But the mainstay of this work is the youth center.
Cái điều đây là chị Hiến, bà trùm tương lai 5 năm nữa của xứ Phước Thành. Hiện tại bây giờ trước
Lớp 9 có nghỉ luôn rồi.
sao nghỉ vậy?
Lớp 8 còn học được năm nữa
Tương lai
hả?
của giới trẻ Việt Nam là
Our 12th stop is Duk Hui. Here the Salesians have a parish and a formation house. The parish is dedicated to Mary Help of Christians, and the formation house is for aspirants. Father Joseph Hien, one of the older Salesians, is pastor of the church. In his conversation with Ting and the alumni, Father Joseph wanted to thank the benefactors and Father Maisin in Yugoslavia. These benefactors from Yugoslavia helped to provide for the church and helped to give electricity to the parishioners. Father is very thankful for how the church has been able to be rebuilt. It is a glory for Mary Help of Christians. And Father wanted to share with us good news that one of the deacons, Brother Huey, will be hopefully ordained to the priesthood soon. He asked for prayers for this intention. Father also wanted to thank the benefactors in Austria for all their financial help and prayers, and wanted to wish them many blessings. As the alumni met here for a short prayer, they were also hosted to a wonderful day. Father Joseph greeted them and told them again of the great work of Don Bosco, especially in catechesis and in the youth work here at the parish. The community sustains itself also with a little bit of agriculture. Black pepper and coffee are grown and sold. The Salesians here working together, also with the Salesian sisters who live very close to this center. The alumni were very impressed by how well the parish is functioning, how much enthusiasm.
This is the new house of the Salesian sisters at Gia Kiệm. Has been built recently in the new economy zone. After 15 years they have lived and worked in this community. They have struggled and been through lots of pain, but their spirit has been stronger than ever, and you can see that through the work they have done.
"15 years ago, in March 1975, the students from Don Bosco were making an outing to Dalat and stopped at this rest stop at Blau. The rest stop has a wonderful monument to Our Lady. In our journey this March, the group stopped again at the same rest stop. They remembered 15 years before. Is a very big parish with very many families, over 1,000 families. Here the group met the effervescent Father Mi, who is associate pastor of this parish. He teaches liturgy and Bible studies. Always jovial, he was very happy to see all the alumni. This is a very artistic community with 3 Salesians and very active group. The art is seen on water tanks. Mary Help of Christians and St. John Bosco decorate the horizon. The Dominican sisters help with music and liturgy and teach catechism in the parish. Father Mi works together with Father Kim who is the pastor of this very large and flourishing parish. It is evening by the time the group moves on to Liên Khương. This small village is in the mountain country, and while the church looks very small, it has a very large parish, more than 1,000 families. Father Joseph Twit is pastor. There are 4 Salesians in this parish, Father Tuan, who is an underground priest, 1 deacon, and 1 cleric. This is the place where the Salesians gathered in 1975, after the takeover, and it was from this parish that they dispersed to the other centers in Vietnam. The parish is indeed a very flourishing place, with a very large group of parishioners. Besides doing parish work and catechesis, the Salesians here support themselves through farming. Silkworms provide the biggest income.
Trong thời gian chúng con sống ở đây, chúng con vẫn luôn nhớ tới các bề trên của chúng con thôi. Đặc biệt nhớ tới cha Mario, cha Massimino.
There is also a small youth center attached to this parish.
Cha Lực, cha Lạc, cha Ngọc, thầy Bulo, thầy Đề Mạc Kỳ.
Father Joseph explains to us the plans for the future, the strengthening of the youth center, and the attempt to bring Don Bosco's spirit in every way possible to the people. This is a parish where the young are readily seen. On the farm, besides the silkworm, there are ducks, pigs, chickens, which are raised as cash crops, and many dogs which stand as guardians. The group arrived in the evening and spent the night, and early the next morning, after a quick breakfast, would make their departure. Salesian friends, Brother Nam and Brother Phúc, will greet the Salesians in California, especially Peter Buỗi, who they remind of their own friendship and tell him that as he gets ordained, not to remember his old friends, the deacons in Vietnam.
Thầy Lưỡng với chị chúc linh mục rồi đó, rồi nhớ đến mấy thầy già này nữa nhé. Nói nhắn dùng.
Nghia Lam is a very small parish. Well, not very small, average, about 500 Christians. It is small in the Salesian staff. There is only 1 Salesian deacon at this parish. Deacon Tuan is alone, but as he says, single but joyful in Don Bosco's way. He has been busy building up the parish and has many parishioners to help him. To sustain the parish, there is the fishing and the farming, the coffee, just as in the other Salesian centers. But besides the farming, building goes on. Building to gather the young people, and building also to house the future Salesians, who hopefully will be able to come to this parish.
Hồi bắt đầu làm nhà này, hồi bắt đầu xây kìa.
Another average-sized parish is Bac Hoi. quite modest and simple. This parish has a small Salesian community. Father Toy is pastor. And Brother Chin as associate. Ting, in greeting him, gives him messages and letters from Father Meissen and the Salesians in Ljubljana. The church is smaller than some of the others that we visited, but very active. The Salesian residence is attached to the church, very simple and Spartan. And again, besides the small community and parish activities, there's the usual farm, which sustains the Salesian community and the parish. Father Toy tells us that the work is very difficult, not just because of the parish work, but because of the conditions under which the community, the Salesians, indeed all the Vietnamese are living at this time. He says that unless you've lived in these conditions, it's very hard to imagine or to understand. And yet the work continues. Special to the heart of the Salesians in this parish is the work of the oratory and of catechesis. The oratory and youth center carries on, rain or shine. The children join in the enthusiastic games, as do children throughout Vietnam and throughout the Salesian world. Dinh An is a mountain community up in the highlands, and the people who live here are a minority among the Vietnamese. They are called the Co Ho people, or the mountain people. Their traditions are rich, and their welcome was warm. One Salesian deacon heads this parish, and a priest comes once a month for Mass. Still, the faith and the love of this community is very visible. The group arrives in Dalat. The journey is nearing completion. Dalat was the house of studies built in 1972 when Vietnam became an independent Salesian province separate from Hong Kong. This was the only house of the society that was never confiscated or tampered with by the Hanoi government. This was because the house was under the protection of Bishop Lam, Bishop of Dalat. Father Khoi is director of the House of Studies. In this community, which has 15 Salesians, the work of formation continues. Many of the young people are studying, others are preparing for the Salesian ministry. The house is very large, and whereas now it houses 20 persons, it was built to accommodate 100. In the last year, the Salesians have registered this as a tourist house, which means that they can now host foreign guests. But 15 years of hardship have seen its toll taken on the building. It is in need of repairs. There's also commerce here to help support the ministry and the Salesians working here. They have refrigeration units, and so they make ice cream, yogurt, and ice milk for sale. Here, Brother Ching, who is involved in maintenance, is working also to repair the refrigerator units. The story goes that Father Khoi blessed all the equipment that it may be profitable and that the community may be able to support itself. What was once the seminary chapel now doubles as the parish church, and Dan Rua House of Studies is a flourishing parish and youth center. The chapel is simple and yet modern. The community also supports itself with a nursery. Here, the Salesians raise orchids, roses, and other types of flowers. They raise apples, all of these for the sustenance of the community. But this farm was not built to be a farm. Originally, this was the soccer field, and what is now used as the warehouse was once the auditorium. And yet it is through their agriculture and the raising of flowers that Dalat is self-sufficient. The complex, built in '72 by Father Massimino, is a welcome center for the young. Its oratory is very well attended. The gardens are beautiful and also practical. The fish ponds raise fish enough for breeding and for selling. And the ice factory is an important part of the whole operation. Here is one of the young customers bringing his load of ice for his half-mile trek home. By the time he gets home, half of his ice will be melted in the heat, but the rest will be welcome for his mother's icebox. When the young are not doing their chores and working hard, they are welcome here for play. Girls and boys join at the Dan Rua Center in this very active oratory. The work of Dalat is again flourishing and joyful. Don Bosco is alive here. Trạm Hành. It was the final stop, and perhaps the saddest. Trạm Hành 15 years later. What had once been a very joyful junior seminary and aspirantate, a flourishing novitiate, had been confiscated by the communists in 1975 and given over to a lumber company. When the alumni arrived, they could hardly believe it. What they had worked and lived in for so long and had loved as their home was now in decay. Ting was not allowed to take pictures. The residents forbade him. So these shots are taken with his camera slung on the side. The alumni were confused by the deterioration. They were told that storms and the lack of maintenance had taken away what had been their house of studies. The sadness at seeing the deterioration was also replaced by the fondness of the memories. And so after getting their fill of looking at the deteriorated buildings, alumni began to walk through the fields that they remembered walking through as young boys. the spirit of the hike
Này là từ Trạm Hành.
brought them once again to the joy that they remembered. And it was here that they met a former Salesian, Simon Truyen. Simon's mother had been the Vietnamese Mama Margaret. And in sharing and remembering, Simon was moved, remembering the goodness of his Salesian friends and the gratitude of his alumni.
Con xin chào cha và xin cha cầu nguyện cho gia đình con sống đẹp lòng Chúa. Con yêu dấu của cha Simon. Thằng đang đi chợ ở đây chưa về.
He said he never thought that he'd see his old alumni again.
Rồi ở đây là khu đất
It has been 15 years since the fall of Saigon. As you've been able to see, the Salesians in Vietnam continue to work, even though it's been quite adverse for them. They have suffered persecution, many have suffered imprisonment, they are suffering poverty and hunger. And yet the work of Don Bosco continues in Saigon, Tu Duc, Dalat, and in many other places. Don Bosco's sons continue to work for the poor, the young, for minorities. And they hope for the day when their work will be able to take on a new breath of fresh air. Perhaps the greatest testimony that this sharing has been able to leave to all of us is that Don Bosco's charism and Don Bosco's love for the young continues to attract Salesians, the young, past pupils, to work for Christ. We hope that you share in this vision and that what we've shared with you today will help motivate you in your own work, in your own life, in your own family. And we ask that you continue to pray and to think about Don Bosco's sons in Vietnam.